welcome to the show. O.J. Simpson, former football star accused of murder, has died. This has been announced in the obituaries. O.J. Simpson, whose rise and fall from American football hero to accused murderer to prison inmate, fueled a rancorous public drama that obsessed the nation and spawned debates over race, wealth, justice, and retribution. Has died from cancer, according to a family member's statement on X, formerly known as Twitter. It was not immediately clear where Simpson died, but his family said he was surrounded by his children and grandchildren when he died on April 10th. He was 76 years old. Simpson was once the country's most admired athlete, a formidable running back who broke records with grace and determination. He became a crossover star, lending his handsome face and affable personality to the slapstick Naked Gun movies and classic television commercials for Hertz. He served time at Lovelock Correction Center, 90 miles northeast of Reno, where he served 9 years and a 33-year sentence after his 2008 conviction in armed robbery, kidnapping, conspiracy, and other charges stemming from his attempt to recover valuable memorabilia he claimed was stolen from him. His incarceration was widely viewed as long overdue punishment for the 1994 slayings of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ronald L. Goldman. Although widely presumed to be guilty of the slayings, the former USC Heisman Trophy winner was acquitted in 1995 in a spectacular trial that was rife with vexing questions, none more divisive than the one posed by Simpson's defense team, whether a black man in America, even one who would cross racial barriers and attain significant wealth and status, could be tried without prejudice for murders of a white person. Polls showed deep fissures between black people and white people on the question of his innocence. When a predominantly black jury set him free, it drew those racial suspicions into even sharper relief. It was the largest trial of the time, following Pontius Pilate. The only reason that we will care about O.J. Simpson 10 years after, 20 years after, is what it told us about race in this country, said the New Yorker's Jeffrey Tobin. Simpson's acquittal was only the first chapter in a long legal saga. In 1997, a predominantly white jury in Santa Monica, in California, found him liable for the deaths in a civil suit brought by the Brown and Goldman families. Ordered to pay the families $33.5 million in damages, Simpson gave up his Brentwood estate and moved to Florida in large part to evade the civil judgments. In the U.S., things are different state by state, and different states have different laws. His desire to shield his assets set in motion the events that ultimately would bring him down. The robbery in a cheap Las Vegas hotel room in 2007. After a short trial that received minimal media coverage, the judge pronounced him guilty 13 years to the day after the so-called trial of the century had set him free. So he got away with murder, but went to prison for robbery, trying to get his own memorabilia back. The irony cuts deep. Orenthal James Simpson was born July 9th, 1947, in a housing project in the depressed Potrero Hill section of San Francisco. He was the second of four children of Jimmy, a bank custodian, and Eunice, a night orderly at San Francisco General Hospital. He saw little of his father after his parents separated when he was 5. Simpson said in a 1977 Parents magazine interview that he resented his father's absence, especially when he became a teenager and was trying to find out who he was. This is very common in the United States, where the country houses the largest incarceration of black men in the world. With many countries combined, it don't even compare. So there are generations who've grown up with single moms who then have to struggle and work multiple jobs to raise the children because the fathers are absent. This leads to children having so much free time without parenting that they end up being raised on the streets or by gangs. An entire generation, if you can imagine. He had rickets as a child and was left with spindly bowed legs that attracted taunts from his neighborhood kids. His mother fashioned a set of homemade leg braces that helped him improve enough to play football at Galileo High School. But his other extracurricular activities was stealing hubcaps and pipes with a gang called the Persian Warriors. As I said, again, without parental supervision and the large majority of black men locked up and black women having to be at work all the time, black children of his generation were left to their own devices. I was always the leader, the baddest cat there, he recalled. He shaped up enough to enter San Francisco City College, where he scored 54 touchdowns in one season, an amazing feat. At USC, he led the nation in rushing, running for 3,423 yards in 2 seasons. And in 1968, his senior year, captured the highest honor in college football, the Heisman Trophy. So against all odds, he made it. This is a common story for African Americans in the United States. He being a runner-up the year before, so he obviously had to try again. He was snapped up by the Buffalo Bills in the 1969 National Football League draft, but became problematic immediately when he demanded the largest contract in professional sports in the U.S., $650,000 paid out over 5 years. At the time, a lot of money. Today, peanuts. Initially, Simpson disappointed, but ended up leading the team in rushing for 9 straight years. Can you imagine? In 1973, he broke NFL records by becoming the first runner to surpass 2,000 yards in a single season, with a then record 2,003 yards, and broke Jim Brown's single-season rushing record. Jim Brown, also another black person, once thought to be unobtainable. He was NFL Player of the Year in 1972, 1973, and 1975, but only reached the playoffs once and never got to the Super Bowl. His style was idiosyncratic. known for twisting, fleet-footed runs that stymied the opposition. OJ gets right on top of you, looks you in the eye, and then he's gone. Former Pittsburgh Steelers defensive lineman Joe Green told Newsweek in 1975. That was the kind of skill he brought. This is what African Americans and black people can do. He went by OJ, but he was also known as the Juice. In addition to his athletic gifts, he had what Newsweek's Pete Axlum called an expanding, well-rounded personality that was attractive to Hollywood moguls and Madison Avenue advertisers. By the mid-1970s, the charismatic sports icon was acting in movies such as the Tomorrow Inferno and the Cassandra Crossing, and hurtling through airports as the star of a Hertz rent-a-car television campaign. In 1978, he retired from football after an undistinguished season with the San Francisco 49ers. The same year, his 12-year marriage to the former Margaret L. Whitley ended in divorce. His first marriage produced 3 children, Arnell, Jason, and Aaron. In August 1979, Aaron, then 23 months old, drowned in the family swimming pool. A tragedy. Simpson rarely discussed the accident in public, so we're not sure how that affected him personally or mentally. Mental health is a big issue now and more important than it was before. By the time that tragedy occurred, Simpson was already dating Nicole Brown, whom he had met in 1977 when she was a waitress at a Beverly Hills nightclub, The Daisy. A former homecoming princess at Dana Hills High School in Orange County, she was blonde, beautiful, and 30 years his junior. She dropped out of Saddleback College in Mission Viejo to move in with the famous running back. And after living together for several years, they were married on February 2, 1985. Again, did she take advantage of him? If he wasn't a star, would she have married him? Probably not. Their first child, Sydney, was born that October. A son, Justin, was born in 1988. When Simpson was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985, he thanked Nicole, noting that she entered his life at what is probably the most difficult time for an athlete at the end of their career. She turned those years into some of the best years I've had in my life. He became a sports broadcaster for NBC and ABC, including a brief run as a replacement for broadcaster Howard Cosell on Monday Night Football, a very popular show in the U.S. He played a disaster-prone detective in the slapstick Naked Gun movies. His pursuits enabled him to provide Nicole with a very glamorous life. In addition to the $5 million Brentwood estate, they had second homes in Laguna Beach and New York, his and hers Ferraris, and frequent vacations to Vail, Aspen, and Hawaii. But theirs was a volatile relationship. They fought all the time, made up with regularity. On New Year's Day, 1989, however, an anonymous 911 call summoned police to the Simpsons' home. When police arrived at 3:30 a.m., Nicole rushed out from the bushes where she had been hiding. Her lip was split, her eye was black, and a handprint was visible on her cheek. And, on her neck. "He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me," she cried, according to the police report. The famous former athlete emerged from the house yelling, "I got 2 women and I don't want that woman in my bed anymore." Simpson pleaded no contest to domestic violence and was ordered to pay a $700 fine, obtain psychiatric counseling, and perform 120 hours of community service. He also was placed on 2 years probation. So the couple issued a statement calling the altercation an isolated and unfortunate incident. Doesn't sound like it. In 1992, the couple divorced. Simpson kept the Brentwood house while Nicole and the children moved into a townhouse a few miles away, which he probably funded. He started to date model Paula Barbary, but friends said he remained obsessed with his former wife. It happens. On a 911 tape from October 25, 1993, widely aired after the murders, Nicole is heard pleading with the operator for help. She said OJ had broken the door down and was going nuts. There were several unsuccessful attempts at reconciliation. In late May, Nicole told her family that she was done with OJ. So on June 12th, 1994, Simpson attended his daughter Sydney's school dance recital. According to witnesses, he sat alone and glared at his ex-wife during the performance. When she left for a post-recital dinner party with her children, Simpson was not invited. This much is certain about what happened over the next hours. After dining at a neighborhood restaurant, Mezzaluna, Nicole took the kids to get Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Back home, her mother called her around 9:40 p.m. to ask Nicole to retrieve a pair of eyeglasses she had left at the restaurant. Nicole reached her friend Goldman, who was a waiter at the restaurant. He said he would drop off the glasses after he left work around 9 p.m. A little more than an hour later, a blood-streaked Akita would be led a good Samaritan to a grisly discovery. 2 bodies covered in blood outside Nicole's Bundy Drive condo. When police arrived, they found Nicole, 35, with a deep, wide gash across her throat. Goldman, 25, had stab wounds to his throat, lungs, and abdomen. The children were asleep upstairs. When the police tried to notify Simpson, they learned he had left on an 11:45 p.m. flight to Chicago for a meeting with Hertz executives. By the next day, his Rockingham Road estate had become a crime scene. Police had discovered bloodstains on the driveway and a bloody glove in the yard that appeared to match one recovered on Bundy Drive. They found traces of blood on a white Ford Bronco parked haphazardly at the curb. The estate's famous resident quickly became the focus of the investigation. The enduring image from the days immediately after the murders would be the Bronco cruising down eerily empty freeways trailed by a fleet of police cars. For 7 hours on Friday, June 17th, the celebrated former athlete eluded the authorities who had planned to arrest him that morning. Behind the wheel of the Bronco was Simpson's boyhood friend and former NFL colleague A.C. Cowlings. In the back, reportedly holding a gun to his own head, was Simpson. Tipped by news reporters, which often happens, crowds gathered along the Bronco's route as it sliced through Orange and Los Angeles counties. Some bystanders cheered "Go OJ Go" as the Bronco passed, as they were witnessing what was one of his legendary runs on the football field. Others held up signs, "We love juice. We love the juice. Save the juice." An estimated 95 million people, bigger by several million than the number of people who tuned in into the Super Bowl that year, watched the slow speed pursuit on television. Later, some commentators would trace the roots of reality TV to the surreal 60-mile car chase that transfixed the nation and ended with violence in Simpson's driveway, where he finally surrendered. "Don't feel sorry for me," Simpson said in a suicide note his friend, attorney Robert Kardashian, read at a news conference earlier in the day. Remember, Robert Kardashian is the dad of the now famous Kardashians. The note ended with a plea. "Please think of the real OJ and not this lost person." Laurie Levinson, a Loyola Law School professor who became a fixture as an analyst for CBS during the trial, said the case and the chase became a cultural touchstone. He really does define the combination of modern pop culture with the modern justice system, Levinson said. He was the origin of reality TV. You followed the Bronco. You followed the trial. You followed the everything after. It's like the Bronco chase continues. Again, the Kardashians. The trial opened on January 24, 1995, in the downtown Los Angeles courtroom of Judge Lance Ito, whose decision to allow the proceedings to be televised was later heavily criticized. Quickly dubbed the trial of the century, it offered a cast of slick lawyers, Johnny L. Cochran, Jr., and Robert Shapiro leading the defense, and Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden for the prosecution. And intriguing supporting characters, from the sympathetic sister Denise Brown to rumpled houseguest Kato Kalin. Vanity Fair writer Dominic Dune called the trial a great trash novel come to life. With no murder weapon or eyewitnesses, the evidence was purely circumstantial, but Clark promised the jury that a trial of blood evidence would lead them directly from the gory crime scene to Simpson's mansion. The prosecution presented DNA findings that the blood found next to the size 12 shoe prints leaving the scene belonged to Simpson, who wore size 12 shoes. That blood found on a sock in his bedroom belonged to Nicole, and that blood detected in his Bronco belonged to Goldman. As for motive, the prosecutors portrayed Simpson as a jealous man obsessed with his ex-wife and frustrated he could no longer control her through expensive gifts, threats, and beatings. He killed Goldman, Darden said, because he got in the way. The defense demolished the DNA evidence, arguing that police conspired to fabricate and contaminated evidence. It turned a key exhibit, a bloody glove, into a symbol of official malfeasance. Not only did Simpson's lawyers allege that the glove found in their client's yard that matched one found at the crime scene had been planted by a racist cop, Detective Mark Furman, whose derogatory references to African Americans and boasts about manufacturing evidence were exposed in court, but the gloves didn't even fit when Darden asked Simpson to try them on. "They're too small," Simpson said, struggling to pull on the gloves. Those were the only words he uttered to the jury during the 10-month trial. The dramatic demonstration gave Cochran the line that cemented his closing argument. If it doesn't fit," he intoned, "you must acquit." We all remember that. And less than a week later, the jury acquitted the celebrity defendant after deliberating only 3 hours, but Simpson was never truly free again.